Good morning, everybody. And as we have our 2021 Info Day for Horizon Europe, the first one, we are now meeting in the new format of an online presentation, so I cannot see your faces, which many of you will be familiar to us, I expect. So welcome particularly to the session on enabling climate neutral, clean, smart and competitive waterborne transport. My colleague, Mr. Ronald Vopel, will be presenting the topics today. But before we go into that, I just outline a few sort of house rules. Please post all of your questions on Slido. At the end of the session, we will be answering those in priority order, so the most popular ones first. And if we run out of time, we'd ask you to post your question using the research inquiry service. We'll give you an oral reply, and you will see that this session is recorded so you can catch up with any replies online. Other thing to note is please check carefully the conditions of the topics, particularly the deadlines and the text, because that is the gospel. You will find that's where the call is published, and when we have a deadline, it's to the minute of that deadline which will apply. Finally, we have launched a poll for this session. I think we're the only ones to do that. It's a multiple choice. It is live now, and you can indicate in there the topics, so you can select several which you have the most interest in. We will keep that poll running throughout the presentation, and just before the questions at the end, we will display the results and freeze it for everybody. One other point on the questions, we will respond to questions relating to the topics, in particular Ronald, who is the final author of those topics. We won't cover more general Horizon Europe funding conditions, etc. That's a bit outside of our scope of expertise. So now, without wasting any more time, I'll hand over to my colleague, Mr. Ronald Vopel, who will present the topics. Thank you. Ronald, over to you.
Thank you, Peter. Good morning, everybody, from my side. Can we have the presentation, please? There we are. Okay, let's move to the first slide. Some general remarks. Peter already mentioned it. Please read the topic text carefully. Every word counts. This is very balanced. There's a lot of drafting has gone into that. And these are the conditionalities that you have to fulfill. On the one hand, we try to be as precise as possible. On the other hand, of course, we are technology neutral and we are open to all kinds of innovative solutions. This balance has to be struck by you as well by reading it very carefully. In principle, we are in an urgency with the decarbonization of the waterborne transport sector. Therefore, we're looking for game changers, not so much business as usual, but rather moving to a new step, a next step in innovation and research. Therefore, we're aiming at the highest TRLs possible. Of course, they are still indicative in each topic because science and research are open and results are not always a given, but please keep that in mind. Therefore, also we are welcoming demonstrators, and for some topics they are indeed mandatory. It's indicated there. There is a clear need to convince investors, ship owners, people who build ships or who invest in innovative technologies on vessels and in the related systems. Therefore, they need to be convinced that this works and delivers the results they're expecting. We are with this programmation for the first time in relation to a co-program partnership under Horizon Europe called Zero Emission Waterborne Transport, abbreviated ZOOT. And we have designed many of the topics, the majority actually of the topics, in collaboration with that partnership. And these topics are marked as partnership topics. Therefore, it's strongly suggested that you consult the strategic research and innovation agenda of that partnership, which you find at that web address given here. Maybe a general remark on this: the topics are completely open to everybody. Proposers do not have to be members of the partnership, but as I said, the partnership is the background of what we're doing there. There is a strategic orientation of this partnership that is reflected in these topics. Therefore, when you see the marked topic as suit, there is a certain relevance for the delivering on these objectives. First slide, please, then. Okay, let's go straight into the matter. I will have to present today to you 8 topics, so it's a bit of a tour de force. I hope you bear with me. The first topic in 2021 is enabling safe, efficient onboard storage and integration within ships of large quantities of ammonia and hydrogen fuels, a partnership topic, as I indicated. What we're looking for are storage solutions for ammonia, hydrogen, and derived shipping fuels in various forms. Typically, they would be liquid in order to have a high energy density. And we would look also in the integration of these fuels from the storage into the high power propulsion systems, which in themselves are not necessarily included, but for demonstration purposes, of course, the linkage needs to be defined. We are fuel neutral within the scope, but we expect an informed pre-selection because we are aware that not every fuel in every form will be suitable. We're looking at a implementation in real shipping conditions and the application of naval architectural paradigms. So structural tanks would be a preference, although it's not mandated necessarily, but we want to see something that is in line with the current reality of shipbuilding in order to have a rollout that is as quickly and as efficient as possible. Regulatory aspects will play an important role in this, in particular, of course, safety in bunkering and in the use of these fuels. The ultimate aim would be in a midterm, not necessarily within the project, but in midterm, a storage capacity equivalent to 300 tons of conventional bunker fuels. We derive that number basically from a typical medium-sized short sea vessel that has to have a certain autonomy of, let's say, 2 weeks. This is what we're aiming at. We want to replace traditional fuels with climate neutral fuels, and therefore we need to be within the reality of shipping operations. Of course, modularity and upscaling need to be elaborated since we will have to move to larger solutions later as well. Next slide, please. Expected outcome, well, the demonstration of the applicability and the practical use in high power systems and for long autonomy. The autonomy should be, of course, in line with the individual application case. Development of the pertinent technical rules. We want to see a path to real life demonstrators by 2027, which is the end date of the Horizon Europe framework program. And ultimately sailing distances of above 3,000 nautical miles by 2030 should be feasible with these storage capacities. Next slide, please. So this is an innovation action. As I said, we try to go to demonstrators. TRL levels 6 to 7 are aimed at. We have a total budget of 20 million euro. The indicative size of a project is 10 million, so we're aiming at 2 projects if possible. Deadline 14 September 2021. Next slide, please. We're moving to the next topic. This is enabling the integration of very high power fuel cells in ship design using a cogeneration and combined cycle solution. So what we'd like to see here is the proof of the use of high temperature fuel cells in a cogeneration combined cycle mode. High power propulsion for us means significantly above 3 megawatt, or if it's not for propulsion purposes, a related similar high power demand, like for example, on a large cruise ship. We would like to see an onboard demonstrator and the full energy system integration approach. So not just a part of the system, but at least want to see an outline of the system in its full scope. Conventional fuel would be allowed actually if you can prove a significant reduction of emissions to be proven compared to an internal combustion engine setup. And I'll come to that in a moment. It is possible to make a choice for what we would consider a rather easier application area in order to facilitate the demonstration. For example, inland navigation vessels could be a test case, but then the upscaling to larger vessels would have to be proven. The fuel cell development itself is not included. Next slide, please. So the expected outcome here is the full feasibility and technical demonstration, proving of scaling up beyond 3 megawatt, and a clear option as main propulsion for short sea shipping and inland navigation. If the use of fossil fuel is foreseen, then we want to see a minimum of 20% efficiency gain compared to burning the same fuel in an ICE setup. We want to see the demonstration of the exploitation on board of waste thermal energy, because we're dealing here with high temperature fuel cells. And we want to see a pathway to real-life waterborne applications indicated as a TRL 8 by 2030. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay, this is a RIA. TRL level 5 is aimed at. The total is 15 million euro, and we are foreseeing actually only one project in that order of magnitude. Deadline 14 September again, which is true basically for all the topics I'm presenting. Next slide, please. So then the third topic I'd like to present is a CSA, a support action, identifying sustainable fuel deployment scenarios. Again, a partnership topic. It's really there to support all the rest we're doing in the area of decarbonization of waterborne transport. So here, the scope is clearly the support of the partnership in the area of alternative shipping fuels deployment. There will be quite a number of criteria to be considered. The type of shipping service we're talking about, the supply situation, the supply needs, the regional infrastructures and eventual constraints, the costs, OPEX and CAPEX, environmental factors, the regulations on the EU and the international level. What are the markets? How can the markets deliver the alternative sustainable fuels to the sector, and what would be possible incentives to trigger the take-up. Life cycle analysis is to be included, and eventually even linkages to other transport modes where suitable and similar fuels are being used. Next slide, please. Expected outcome, of course, a full understanding of what these clean fuel scenarios for different regions would mean and how the different variables would play out. The development of quantified and dynamic techno-economic models for the uptake of sustainable fuels. Dynamic because this will not be a static situation where we have overnight one perfect fuel. There will be many years of development and different possibilities. And they might actually be different for different application cases. So we are expecting a multitude of sustainable fuels to be considered and maybe even implemented. Of course, support to identify the impacts on ports and have different scenarios for different regions. And ultimately, of course, the transposition of RDI results should be supported into a commercial and regulatory reality. Next slide, please. It's a CSA, as I said. The budget is relatively small with 500,000 euro because we have two ongoing CSAs in a similar area. And of course, there should be a continuity from the results of those. Again, 14 September 21 being the deadline for submissions. Next slide, please. Thank you. Again, a partnership topic, innovative onboard energy saving solutions. So this is all kind of efficiency solutions will be considered here, in particular, and also in the light of the fact that future alternative fuels will be more expensive and therefore energy saving solutions will have their merit. We have here a very wide and open scope, including the combination of measures, new energy sources, and digital solutions. So here we're looking really at everything that increases the energy efficiency of a vessel. We look for the widest possible application in waterborne operations. The TRL is low, but tests in the operational environment will be considered a bonus, and internal combustion engine-based solutions are excluded here. Next slide, please. So what we like to see is deployable energy efficiency solutions, either standalone or in combination for new constructed vessels or for retrofitting. Both are possible. Want to see at least 10% proven energy savings compared to best available technology for a standalone solution. And in the case of combination, they should aim at 20% of energy saving, each on the level of the vessel itself. Next slide, please. As I said, relatively low TRL 5, it's a RIA. The topic is with a budget of 20 million, and we indicate a project budget of 5 million. That means we're aiming at multiple projects, 4 with the indicative budget, but if the solutions are a bit cheaper, then of course more projects can be funded. So this, I said, wide scope, therefore multiple proposals will be considered. Same deadline as before. Next slide, please. Hyper-powered vessel battery charging system, a partnership topic. We want to see shore to ship high power, 5 megawatt as an indicator, and high speed charging. High speed meaning taking into account the vessel turnaround time. So full charge during the typical port stay. We have no preferred technology here to prescribe, but we of course would want to see standardization, as standalone solutions will of course not be a good answer. There must be substantial progress beyond state of the art. Priority is on new vessels, but retrofitting should be considered where possible. Obviously here is a bit of a dilemma. If you go for a brand new technology beyond state of the art, retrofitting will be more complex than starting from scratch. But since the overall objective is a large-scale decarbonization of waterborne transport, it's quite important to look at the existing fleet. We include offshore terminals that can be considered, for example, in wind park services. If you look at the call text, you will see that one of those scenarios could be that service vessels are electrified and are recharging at the offshore park itself in order to have longer service times there. We are not looking at the upstream supply of the electricity, but they must be considered for impacts, as we are aware that with high power and high speed charging, there will be a burden on the port infrastructure, and this must be given some attention. We're looking for a demonstrator, actually end-to-end connection between 2 European ports, but the solution should not be proprietary. It should indeed just show that it works in a realistic environment between 2 ports, turning around a vessel between these 2 ports and charging them at each end fully electrical. Next slide, please. So expected outcome is a midterm game changer for battery electric vessels, in particular improving on the turnaround times, which is a bit of deviation from what we have, where often charging is overnight. So while the vessel is not active, here we would be rather looking at turnaround times that are so fast that they can be within the operational scale of the vessel. As I said, 2 full-scale demonstrators end-to-end, market analysis and feasibility assessment for European ferries and short sea shipping in particular to drive investment in this sector. And the demonstration of flexibility, same installation, various users. Next slide, please. Innovation action, TRL 6 to 7, budget is 14 million euro, and we're looking for 2 projects, so roughly with an indicative budget of 7 million euro each, and same deadline, mid-September 21. Next topic, please. Assessing and preventing the methane slip from LNG engine or conditions within both existing and new vessels, a partnership topic. Well, we have an increased rollout of LNG-powered vessels. That is a reality, even if it's a fossil fuel. And we have methane slip as a problem that has been identified. So problem assessment needs to be done through analysis, ideally of existing data. Measuring campaigns have been made in the past, so they don't need to be repeated unless it's duly justified. We want to see the development of comprehensive methane slip abatement strategies, including after treatment. There should be demonstration of those strategies with virtual elimination of all methane emissions from LNG-powered vessels. And in particular, there should be a focus on retrofitting existing LNG-powered vessels. As I said, there is an increasing number of vessels in the fleet, and that mise en slip problem needs to be addressed for them as well. Next slide, please. Expected outcome is at least one full-scale demonstrator, and the practical demonstration of the abatement solutions for both retrofitted and new builds, and covering a wide range of operational scenarios, load cases, etc. Next slide, please. Innovation action, TRL 7, so quite ambitious. Total budget is 7 million euro. One project should be funded with the indicative budget for proposal 7 and the same deadline as before. Next topic, please. Digital twin models to enable green shipping operations. This is the digital topic in this work program. So here the scope is a digital twin concept to improve the energy efficiency and environmental performance from the very early design stage to the end of the life cycle. So this is for the whole life cycle of a vessel. It should lead us to understand better the vessel performance in a wide range of operations, in particularly in the view of a parallel uptake of innovative technologies for onboard energy storage, energy efficiency, distribution and conversion, voyage optimization and maneuvering. So all relevant ship systems would have to be modeled, obviously, in order to fulfill this scope. And we would want to see simulations, but also a real life data feedback from vessel in operation in order to improve the digital twin model. Next slide, please. Expected outcome is reduced emissions and improved efficiency through the development of digital models and the related tools for a wide range of vessels and types, ship systems, and various operational environments. Wide applicability, interoperability of digital models for those ship types, both for the new construction and for retrofitting, though there should be a comprehensive methodology and a transferable system architecture. And obviously, when we look at this very wide scope, at some point there needs to be a linkage with port-related digital twins. Next slide, please. This is a RIA. We are expecting this because of the wide scope to be relatively challenging from the point of basic research. TRL 5 is being aimed at here. Total budget 7 million, and we expect to fund one project in that order of magnitude. Same deadline as before, mid-September 21. That brings us to the next topic. Proving the feasibility of a large, clean ammonia marine engine. Now here we want to see the development, demonstration, and validation of a multi-cylinder internal combustion engine with at least 10 megawatt maximum continuous rating power output running on ammonia at its main fuel and meeting the IMO Tier 3 or even lower NOx emission thresholds. The engine must be operating at its rated power either in a laboratory or on board of an actual vessel. We want to see total tank to wake greenhouse gas emission reduction where this marine gas oil baseline by at least 80%. And the supply of the climate neutral upstream ammonia is not part of the topic. So that is something we cannot address within this, but it would be good, of course, if a project is addressing the problem of upstream supply. And of course, retrofitting solutions for existing vessels are particularly attractive here. If they can be decarbonized this way, that would be, of course, a big breakthrough for the improvement of the existing fleet. Let's move to the next slide then. So the expected outcome is pretty straightforward. The scope already says it. Demonstration and validation of an ammonia-fueled marine engine with an output in the plus 10 megawatt range. The validation should show the safe and reliable operation in realistic scenarios and for a wide range of load cases. There should be pathways indicated to the uptake of ammonia as a marine fuel for deep sea shipping and high power vessels. And we want to see the analysis of pathways for ammonia as a marine fuel through the establishment of the necessary regulation and solution for health and safety issues. And this is in particular important, not just making it work, but making it work safely and reliably. Next slide, please. This is an innovation action, TRL 6 to 7. I thought there's 10 million euro budget and we expect only one project, and which is a bit in the logic of the scope. Once we have proven a ammonia engine, we don't need to do that twice. And the same deadline, of course. Next slide, please. Thank you. That's pretty much it. These were the 8 topics I wanted to present. Looking forward to your questions. For eventual clarifications. As Peter already indicated, we will try to answer all questions that are related to the technicalities of these topics, but eligible costs and other grant-related questions we cannot answer at this occasion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ronald. And rather than being over time, I think you're 5 minutes under time. So very concise presentation of the topics. So just to look at where we are with the poll, well, actually we only received 14 indications, which, knowing on the sort of normal numbers of applications we are receiving, is probably not so representative. The most popular seems to be the innovative onboard energy saving solutions and the digital twin, which are quite broad topics, so perhaps you might expect a lot of interest there. And nobody has indicated an interest in the hyper-powered battery charging system and the CSA on sustainable fuel deployment scenarios. Concerning the questions and answers, as I mentioned at the beginning, we will go down through those in order of support, of which only one has received a vote. So we have plenty of time, so I'm sure we'll be able to answer all of them. So the first question, perhaps I hand this one to you, Ronald. Projects must achieve TRL 7 by the end of the project. Does that mean TRL 7 are out of scope of the project, or the final deliverables must be TRL?
Okay, thank you for that question. Well, if you have TRL 7 from the beginning of the project, then we have drafted a very bad work program, because we would basically just implement state of the art. The idea is, of course, that at the end of the project, TRL 7 is reached. This is never guaranteed, so it's an objective, it's an aim. So TRL 7 is, of course, not out of scope of the project, but it's rather the end of the project and not the beginning.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Ronald. So the next, shucks, I think I've deleted accidentally.
Yeah, but I've seen it, so I can answer it.
Yeah,
yes, it's about the funding rate. It's about the funding rate.
So about the 60% funding rate for innovation actions.
Yes.
Could you respond to that?
All topics that are labeled partnership topics have a reduced funding rate for profit-making entities. But only when it comes to innovation actions. So RIAs are still having the traditional funding rate. The reason here is that it was decided that partnerships have a privileged access to the programmation, and therefore they should make a higher contribution themselves. As you know, the EU grant is only part of the project funding. So it's expected that partnership topics, even if they're executed by non-members of the partnership, make a higher contribution, therefore receive a lower funding rate. This has been discussed, and it's not unproblematic, in particular for SMEs. Therefore, we are in this work program actually in a pilot phase. It will be monitored whether the SME participation goes up or down, and then these funding rates might be adjusted in the next work program. But for the time being, this is the funding rate for partnership topics in the area of innovation actions.
Thank you very much. And on the next two questions, perhaps I will respond to. I think there was a little bit of confusion here. Here we're presenting the topic CL5 2021 D5107. So that is clearly a waterborne innovation action topic. That's what it's referred to in the call. And it's what and the text is clearly related to in the topic description. It's not the 2022, which seems to be relating to smog, which is a completely different subject. So I've answered that in the chat as well. So we do not have, hang on, there's one more question just come in. Which call topic would most suit green hydrogen? Destination 3, sustainable, secure and competitive energy supply. Which calls could make one application to? I think here, you know, we're talking about applications of hydrogen. Whether the hydrogen is green or not does not necessarily make any difference to the technology. But Ronald, perhaps you'd like to comment on that?
Yes, Peter is absolutely right. We're looking at the waterborne transport application for hydrogen, hydrogen-derived and hydrogen-related fuels in the waterborne transport sector. So it's not about the principles of hydrogen generation, hydrogen usage, hydrogen storage. It's really vessel specific. Can point out, of course, there's also the hydrogen joint undertaking that will be looking at the much broader picture in terms of hydrogen as a climate neutral energy source. So indeed, we're here really limited to the application area waterborne.
Okay, and Ron, would you like to answer this this next question, which is on TRL7 clarifying? So does this mean that TRL7 activities would be funded?
Yes, of course. If TRL7 is reached within the project, and that's the aim, then of course these activities are funded. I don't think we start at TRL7. As I said, that would be a bit of a flop in terms of drafting a work program. But it's when you reach TRL7 and these activities are within the scope and eligible, they will be funded. Peter, there was one question related that the topic number 7, which I think is the hydrogen storage, is not an EA but a RIA in some reference text. Now I have in front of me the final version of the work program, and it says innovation action. Yeah, so I don't know where this is coming from.
I think they were confusing the same topic in 2022. Because we had 2 questions relating to that. And the 2022 topic is relating to road transport and smog, whereas, as I mentioned just before, in our work program, this is clearly an innovation action. I double checked on the website for EU grants, and in our work program, it's correct. It's an innovation action.
Okay.
Okay, so we've done that question. So it says for the DT call, since there are already a number of tools, is it acceptable an integration of existing tools in a common platform, so DT digital twin? Is it acceptable an integration of existing tools in a common platform, or something new is expected?
I think it's quite clear that the integration of existing tools, elements, modules is perfectly fine, as long as the scope is reached. As you see, in the scope is very ambitious and very wide. And with 7 million, we don't expect now a complete new software suite with new data formats being developed. Of course, we are here in a traditional sector that has a long tradition of using digital tools, there is a lot of things that exist and they don't need to be reinvented. Obviously, if there is a design suite for ship design that does a lot from the initial design stage of a vessel to the delivery, that would be a module that can be perfectly integrated. And then the additional elements would be developed for the earlier stages and the later stages. So yes, the answer is very clear. Existing tools can be integrated to a common platform. As I mentioned, we're looking, of course, for relative open source solutions, not necessarily proprietary. This is public funding here, so we would like to see the benefit for the general public as well.
Thank you. And as in connection to the TRL7 question, of course, as a research and innovation program, we're looking for some progress beyond the state of the art here. So should be moving forward, not just things you can immediately take off the shelf.
Yes.
Okay, okay, I think we've already answered this question, which is the 60% funding rate for partnerships, innovation actions, valid only for CL5 partnerships or for all partnerships topics under Horizon Europe. I know, Ronald, you've been following that. Would you?
Yes, it's only partnership topics, so which are indicated in the logic, as I said, partnership topics having a privileged origin. Therefore, we expect these to have a larger contribution from the beneficiaries. But by the way, this applies, of course, to all co-programmed partnerships in Horizon Europe. As you know, we have 3 different types of partnerships. Each of them has different funding mechanisms, but here we're talking about co-programmed partnerships, of which the zero emission waterborne transport is one. But it applies to the others as well in different areas like batteries or steel.
Thank you, Ronald. So the next question is for the methane slip call. How many vessels operational installations should data be collected from to cover the different existing LNG installations? I would say sufficient, but Ronald maybe would like to expand on that.
Yeah, I think if you're measuring, there have been measuring campaigns. So we are aware that large measuring campaigns have been done. These data should be used in order not to duplicate efforts. It's up to then to the consortium to decide whether that is sufficient or there are still lacunae in the data sets, but as Peter said, sufficient is sufficient. We don't need to now measure endlessly. Actually, we're looking here at abatement solutions. And the scientific base needs to be sound, but we should also not be overdoing it.
Yeah, at the end of the day, this is a qualitative issue. It's be something that will be taken into account by the evaluators when they are considering the proposal and how well it is addressing the topic.
Yes, and I think this goes then also to the next question of John Crockett, that indeed we say there we want to cover all relevant scenarios and load cases. Now, that means basically you cannot really do everything in the lab. There will have to be some onboard testing and measuring. The campaigns that exist, of which I spoke, have also been partly done on board. So this is certainly relevant to at least validate your lab measurements in a realistic environment and see whether this is in a typical operating scenario of a vessel maintained, or whether there are really differences. We know that, of course, particular load cases and maneuvering might lead to a much higher methane slip than just normal cruising speed. This needs to be elaborated in order to really fulfill the overall objective, is doing away with methane slip. That is the ultimate aim.
Thank you very much, Ronald. And so on this next question, will we have a similar event for the 2022 topics? Yes, we will have a similar event for 2022 topics. I believe it was proposed sometime in December. Did you recall if there was anything more definite than that, Ronald?
No, we have no exact planning. we have to look at the call dates and then see. I would say that's probably in late winter, spring next year. It will be, it's a bit like now we have this info day actually 2 weeks after the call has been launched. Ideally, we would like to, of course, have the info days before calls are launched. We have a bit, we had a bit of startup issues with Horizon Europe. We were a bit delayed in the adoption of the work program. Therefore, the call was delayed, and then the info days were delayed as well. Normally, would like to, of course, see the info days just around the time of the call publication.
Thank you. Okay, we have another question relating to funding rates. Perhaps I will partly answer this. It says, coming back to the partnerships, what is the funding rate for companies in the other partnerships, such as former JU, like Shift to Rail or Cesar, 60 or 70%? I would say when you're comparing partnerships, there are differences. Not all partnerships are the same. Cesar and Shift to Rail and Clean Hydrogen Europe are what we call joint undertakings. So they are established as effectively standalone entities with their own legal base. And then we have co-programmed partnerships such as 2.0 for road transport, zero emission waterborne transport for waterborne transport, and the batteries partnership, for example. And those are taking the same approach for the 60% funding rate for innovation actions. I don't know, do you want to add anything on that, Ronald?
No, that's okay.
Okay, so we have another question, which is for ammonia engines. Lab testing or the full-scale engine is acceptable without a vessel demo. As I understand it, we're looking here not necessarily of testing on a vessel, but the size of the engine. But Ronald is the expert. Can you answer that question?
Yeah, as I said, every word counts in the program text, and it says or. It's either in a laboratory or on board of an actual vessel. So you can also do it in a laboratory.
And John, your questions are by no means impertinent, and you're very welcome for the answers. And thank you very much for the message. So we have no more questions pending here. We have quite a bit of time left. Ronald and myself are both available, so now you can receive immediate answers. If you're posting answers through the research inquiry service, you will also receive answers, and common questions we will take up and they will be posted for all to see. But you might want to take advantage now, because otherwise, without further input, we will just round up this and close this session. Ronald, would you like to make any concluding remarks before we?
Yeah, as Peter said, we will not continue answering questions on Slido. We don't have the capacity to do that. But if you are entering questions through the portal, they will be answered. And I assume that as you go along in elaborating your proposals, you will have more questions. So please use the portal, and we will try to give you the timely answers. On these things, the principle remains the same. We cannot help you building consortia, but we can help you clarifying what the words in our work program actually mean and what is expected. We try to be as clear as possible, but as I said, the dilemma is always you don't want to be prescriptive, but you also don't want to let people now go off in the wrong direction. And this fine balance we try to strike with the work program. I hope we achieved that. But please feel free to ask through the participants portal your questions. That has already happened before. So we have questions that came in that we answered in that way.
And just to pick on your last point you mentioned about help on building consortia, well, we ourselves personally do not help you in building consortia. You will see on the call pages, there is an area where you can post your interest in particular topics which would be visible for other participants, and you can help. It can perhaps help you make links. And also, of course, there is the waterborne technology platform and the zero emission waterborne transport partnership, who may also be, their members will certainly be involved in making applications here. So you could try making contact through that way. Okay, one last question. They always come in. Where can I get the PDF for the call? Well, you can download the work program off the call website. So this is on the grants area. If you just Google anyone, if you Google any one of these topics, you will find the area. And if you download the work program, you can certainly download it as a PDF. And there you have everything for all topics in all subjects. And you can cut and paste the bits that you think are relevant for yourselves.
Yes, I would say the work program is not the easiest to navigate, because we are organized in destinations, but then also in years. It is not always easy to find the topics, but they are clustered in 2 areas under the heading of this presentation, the clean transport topic. So you'll find the 21 lumped together, and then also the 22, which we did not present here today, which are another 6 topics that will be launched next year.
And this presentation will also be posted online. Usually what I'm doing, if I want to find my way around, is I take the topic identity, just copy paste it, put it into Google, and you will usually find there a direct link to the research portal where it's explaining this topic. As Ronald says, the work program is a bit of a monolith, which is covering everything. So while we talk, more things come in.
But don't forget, you also have national contact points for Horizon Europe that can help you.
Okay, another general question, which I think I can answer. What types of organization are eligible for funding of this cluster destination? Well, the answer is all types of entities are eligible for support. All of those that are established in Europe or that are associated in the EU or associated to the Horizon Europe. However, the association agreements for those countries that are candidates to become associated to Horizon Europe, these are not yet concluded, and there are some special conditions relating to that. And I suggest you check those out, those online. Also, certain third country participants are eligible to apply for funding within consortia, and there is a list of those countries within the Horizon Europe documentation. But as Ronald says, please go to your national contact points. They will be fully familiar with all of this type of question and can give you a clearer answer. So I've spoken a little bit longer there, so I'm just going to check in Slido if we have another question before we close. No more questions there. So from my side, I would say thank you very much. We look forward to your participation. You can submit your questions through the Research Inquiry Service. Please use the National Contact Point Network, who can give you more sort of tailored guidance and the benefit of their expertise and experience. And Ronald, if you'd like to say anything just to conclude.
I'd just like to thank the audience. We don't know who the audience is. That is certainly a bit of a deficit in comparison to previous info days, where we would now go for a coffee and maybe clarify a few things a bit further. We have to live with that. I hope we have been comprehensive enough in our explanations. As Peter said, national contact points, participant portal, And some of you might have our direct contacts as well, so feel free to ask them technical questions that are for the purpose of clarification. And then good luck with your proposals.
And we will aim to share responses to questions no matter which way they come, when they're of general interest on the frequently asked questions area, so it will be accessible to everybody. So thank you very much, and I wish you good luck with the rest of the info day, or if you're waterborne specific, thanks for your interest, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.